Hello, Drumbalo.
Hello, Daniel.
Drumbalo, I remember early 90s you were talking about how important it is to be in the heart, and so many methods. Now, after almost 30 years we have this book, all the methods are here. How important is today to be in the heart?
It's eternal. It will always be important, no matter where you are in the universe or what century you're in or what time it is in. It'll always be the most important thing in the universe. It's we have inside of our heart this place, the tiny space of the heart, which is in science, it's called singularity. It's a place without any polarity. But what I've done in my research in the universe is that this place is found like in the center of the earth, in the center of the sun, the center of the galaxy, and all stars and all planets. It's always in the center. And that place is the same. They're all interconnected over the whole place. So whenever you go into singularity, you are absolutely one with the universe. And that's always the key to higher evolution, is being one with the universe. It's very important, I think.
You know, I was thinking, do you think on the other places, other planets, people, they connect with the universe in another way?
Oh yeah, that's now scientifically, it hasn't been proven, but what has been proven is that they can. Through the Cosmic Grace Workshop, which I'm still writing that book and developing all of that work, when people see that, they'll understand that things have changed from before. In science, we thought that that the fastest thing in the universe was the speed of light, 186,200 miles a second, and it seems really fast. I mean, that could go to the moon and halfway back again in a second. But when you look at the size of the universe, which is now the newest understanding of how far it is, it's 13.8 billion light years across. So if I was going to talk to someone across the other side, I'd say hi to somebody on the other side of the universe. It would take 13.8 billion years to get there to say hi. And then when
too much.
Then when he says hi back, it's going to take another 13.8 billion years to get back here again. And so science has said, you know, there's no way that the universe can communicate with itself. It's not possible, because they didn't know. But now they know. And most of the world doesn't know, but the inner levels of science knows that there's something called Birkeland currents, which is nothing but ordinary electricity that's in our wall. That's all it is, the same thing. Only on our planet, because of J.P. Morgan, he wanted to run it through a wire, and so all of our research and everything has been done on a limited use of that, of a wire. But there was somebody called Tesla who was beginning to understand how electricity moves through space. And we didn't understand what the heck he was doing, but we do now. And there have been people that have figured this out as far back as Birkeland was his name, in 1906, I think it was. And then later, in 1969, science rediscovered it again, and then it took them a couple of years to figure it out, that it was figured out earlier, and then they called it the Birkeland currents in his honor. Birkeland currents, in the first mathematics when they came up with it, was that Birkeland currents would be moving at least 20 billion times faster than the speed of light. And that would mean that it would go all the way across the universe.
Instantly?
No, it would take about a half a second.
Oh my God.
And so that kind of makes it a little jumpy, but it's possible. But now they know, they've gone further into this, and even if you said 900 billion times faster, it's too slow.
Oh.
Because they've now realized through what they're understanding is that time and distance or space is not real.
Absolutely.
It's just something that we create in our head, but has nothing to do with the actual reality. And so now what they've found is that the Birkeland currents can move from anywhere in the universe to anywhere in the universe in 0 time, not even nanoseconds. 0. It happens. The moment it leaves, it's there. And this is what the whole universe is communicating with.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so the universe is totally interconnected, and we never knew it, but it's the truth.
You think we are ready to use this method? Can we use it?
I'm learning how to use it, and if I can do it, anybody can do it.
That's true.
And I've really learned a lot on this, because in order to do this, there's something that's been talked about in spirituality for a very long time.
In Upanishads and all these books, we are talking about these things, right?
Yes, they are. I believe that that's the only explanation for a lot of the things that they say, to be able to explain how something can happen here, or even quantum physics. There's something in quantum physics that nobody's been able to understand ever. They know it's real, but they don't know how it's possible. That now, so Birkeland currents proves quantum physics, because there's something in there called quantum entanglement.
Yeah.
And so if 2 atoms are put together, or 2 anythings are put together in there, once they're together, you can move them any distance apart. And when you do something to one, the other one responds
Immediately, right?
instantaneously, no matter how far away it is. And that is the definition of Birkeland currents. The only thing is about Birkeland currents, it's not just like point A to point B from one side to the other of the universe. It's real clear to me. It's not clear to science, but it's clear to me because of the Merkaba template of the universe. It is real clear how this works. And so if you put a very complicated message, a video message on the Birkeland currents, it's just electricity, it's no different, you can still do it, and then shoot it into space, it will reach not just point A to point B, but it'll reach every single place in the universe on that level of size, as well as all the bigger sizes and the smaller sizes that go down infinitely and infinitely out. It will reach everywhere. There will not be anywhere that message won't go.
You can imagine all these holy books, they said we can, and probably we will change in like 24 hours. So if we have one of these things, we might do the
Once
jump,
we begin to understand what the Birkeland currents are inside the human body, that's where
it's like that.
at that moment, once we really get it, that's what the Vedas talked about, where we're going to learn about electricity and electromagnetism and all these other things, and we're going to fly through the sky through metal boxes and all this stuff. But the bottom line is they say that once something happens to us, there will be a time when we're going to get this thing, and once we do, in a single day, 24 hours,
We change.
we drop all science and all technology and all that shit and just throw it in the garbage, because we know that we can do anything from within our heart, anything at all. There is no limit. And of course, at that moment, we're no longer human in the way we think of ourselves as being human. We would be considered gods with a small g. But it's really, we are intimately connected with God with a big G, where it's who we really are. And so we're not there yet, obviously. And that's another whole subject of why we're not there yet. But we will reach this point. It's inevitable.
Well, I think it's connected with the heart, what you said it at the beginning of this talk, That's the reason I'm pushing people to this meditation and this workshop, and I do these marathons, stay in the heart, and I push them, stay in the heart more and more and more,
Mm-hmm.
and suddenly I see the change, I think that's the only way.
Yes, I think it is too. The more you stay in the heart, the more you begin to understand who you are and what all life is about. If you do it from the brain, where most people are up here all the time, you're you're polarized. All your thoughts are polarized, your conclusions are polarized, everything else is, and you can't ever reach the understanding of oneness, of singularity. It's just not possible. But so staying in that singularity place slowly and maybe even very quickly gets you connected to all life everywhere. I've had some experiences now that I don't think I can talk about here, but you'd think I was crazy. But I'm really, truly beginning to understand this at this point, and this is why I want to write it into a book, and a book is also polarized, so it's difficult to get things from books. But I'm doing that so to define it the best I can, so that. But once people understand it, you can't control them, because they're going to go in the direction that they know is right for them, no matter what you say. And that's the way it should be. And so I'm going to do my part in all of this and try to get this understanding that's barely being held by the world right now. It's just a few people get it, and it's not out there. It needs to get out there. It will change how we communicate with each other. We don't need cell phones. Telepathy on any level is really clear, and it's part of evolution, and it's nothing to be afraid of or concerned about or anything. It's just what life is giving to us, and it's in every one of us. There's no exception. Yeah. I don't care if you're a really bad person, you still have it inside of you. And
you can do it.
And they could do it too. And so it's all about just relaxing and really learning to love life, because that's so important in all of this, is not being so concerned. I went through a couple of years of really kind of losing it in a way. But in a way, I see now I needed to lose it to see it again.
You stay in seclusion and meditated for last 2 years, but you came now with such a big thing, you know. It might change the world.
I've really had a lot of help. The Mayans, as I was trying to understand how the flows move through the body, I was not, I needed help, because it's very complex. Human body's complex, but on these levels it's really complex. And I was really needing help, and I was asking, for help. And my guides came in, but, Thoth and these people, but they didn't know much about this either. And so in my asking, I had 3 Mayans call me up. And in fact, they just called me a couple days ago. They got something they want to tell me. I don't know what it is, but they said that they had something that they needed to give me. And this was about 3 years ago, and maybe 2 years ago, I don't know. And they came up here to Sedona, and they wanted to give me something, but they didn't tell me what it was until the last minute. And so for 3 days we did ceremony, and so I'm just going through the ceremonies and wondering where we're going with all this. And then at the end, they brought out 13 crystal skulls. Yeah. And they were small ones. And they then introduced to me this crystal skull. I got to ask permission for something. Okay. I'm going to show you. It's never... No one's seen this before. But I'm going to show the world right now. This is my little friend.
Wow, it's like a whole universe in your hands, Drew.
And this was what they brought to me. This skull,
Wow.
which they say is one of the oldest skulls in Mayan history. And he was a man. He won't tell me his name. He says, because I don't have a name anymore.
Wow.
He says, I can't use a name because it's not truthful. And so so they gave me this, and they said, I can't tell you much about it except that it's a really, really old skull. So I came home, and I began to meditate with this. And he came out, and he's a really nice person. And he said that he was Mayan. He was a human being, just like all the rest of us. This is 65,000 years ago.
Whoa.
And that he he began to understand the same thing that I'm understanding now. And when he did what I'm doing now, he left this form, and he went into, I'm going to put it down because it's heavy for a moment, and he went into an expanded state, which is what we're all going to go through. And he's here specifically to make sure that I do this right, the best I make it happen well. And so there is a process inside the body. Our bodies are set up for it. We're made for this. And it's something that is talked about in spirituality, but very few people have any idea what it means.
Yeah.
The words, the human mortal coil. What does that mean? We are, according to spirituality and a lot of discussions around the world, we are a coil, like a coil of a refrigerator or something.
Yeah.
We're a way of channeling electricity in a certain kind of way.
Right.
And so we have all the complex mechanisms inside of our body that if we breathe in a certain way and we do certain things, and it's all connected to the heartbeat. Everything is. The heartbeat, when it beats, every time it goes thump thump, there is a flow of energy that goes out this way and a flow of energy that goes out the bottom that we can't perceive because it's insulated inside of a tube. And when it gets to, and so this is, every person's doing this right now. So if it doesn't go out very far, it only goes out about 20 feet above and below us because you have to do something. And so when the heart beats, it goes thump thump, there's this flow of electricity, and that flow of electricity creates a very powerful magnetic field that science, through HeartMath and Stanford, have been able to prove.
You demonstrated that, right?
Yes, and so that flow creates a magnetic field that starts right at the heart chakra and comes and starts expanding and starts getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And then when the next heartbeat comes, another one comes right behind it. And so there's these things that are every timed by according to your heartbeat, they're right behind it, and they keep expanding out to approximately, depending on your height, about 60 feet.
Oh.
And now Stanford can only test it out to about 10 feet, but Dr. Hart and his equipment can see it out to 50 feet. But we know by the geometries of the Merkaba template that it's actually bigger, a little bit bigger than that.
Yeah.
And I just talked to this world-class electromagnetic scientist who, I don't want to use his name because I just don't want to, he's too well known. But he, in my discussion, he was talking about, he's doing this testing on Berkeley currents. He's one of the people who's going to prove certain things about it. And I said, well, what about the heart? And he goes, well, what about the heart? And I says, well, there is and then I talked about Stanford. There's a magnetic field that goes out and the same thing.
Right.
And I says, if there's a magnetic field there, that's created by an electrical flow.
Right.
And in order to make a magnetic field that far out, it takes a lot of electricity.
Yeah.
So where is that coming from? And it's all about the new mathematics of what Marco Rodin is doing, and a lot of other things we're learning. And so this is a whole new thing that if there is anybody on earth that knows about this, they're probably not talking about it. But this is my job. And so this is important. And so I'm about to write 3 books. Actually, the first 2 are the most important ones. The first one is on, and it's going to be called The Ancient Secret of the Flower of Life, Volume 3 and Volume 4.
We are waiting for them.
Volume 3 will be the one to explain all this science and all this stuff of how it works inside the human body. This is, by the way, is very concerned by most of the governments because they made even the discussion of Berkman currents illegal for a very long time.
They don't want that, believe me.
Not from 1969 until just recently, you don't see anything anywhere because nobody will give you any funding or anything if you even say the word Berkman currents.
Yeah.
But if you say the word Berkman currents and human coil in the same sentence,
It's even
that is their ultimate fear.
more dangerous.
Because one person becomes more powerful than anything on earth. But that person can't use that. One person can't and won't use that in the kinds of ways that somebody may think in polarity. Because when you're in unity, in this singularity, it's just not possible.
Yeah.
It just isn't. You just can't do those things. You can't do anything to harm anything anywhere in the universe.
So you still have to be in the heart.
You have to be in the heart. You can't make these, you can't put all these things together if you're not not just anywhere in the heart, not just in the outer fields, but in that tiny space. Let's just talk about that. That's where there's a huge magnetic field.
Yeah.
Let me make it smaller. There's a huge magnetic field goes around like that through the body.
Yeah.
And it's separate. Well, as the field lines come together, they're polarized. But they keep coming closer and closer and closer, and there's this place in the heart, a tiny space, that where they get so close, they lose their polarity. And only for that little tiny instant of time, there's no polarity.
Unity.
And so by existing inside that polarity, that's the only way that you can begin to realize the truth of what this means. There's nothing from your brain that will ever get there.
Yeah.
Not ever. I don't care how brilliant. You can have an IQ of 2,000, but it won't make any difference. Because you have to literally exist inside that space when you're doing it. And so he really helped me, this guy, because he knew what I was going through and what I was trying to understand. And so when I was trying to do these things, he was saying, well, you got to do this, you got to do that, and tell me, and he really, I finally was able to do it. I can do it now. It's awesome. And so I don't know what else I can say about this. Let me think for just a moment. Well, the other thing that is important to know is that you can't do this under normal conditions if you're just breathing. You can't, even though it's creating this huge energy field and making this huge magnetic field, which is way more powerful than anybody understands about the human body, it isn't enough to stream energy out so far that it actually connects you to the universe. The only way you can do that is through Tantra. That's sacred sex. And in Tantra, you can generate enough energy when you focus it properly and do the right thing and all these other little details. You got to do it once. I can't help it, that it's complicated. A stream comes out of you that actually activates your mortal coil.
Wow.
And so suddenly you're putting out not a relatively small amount of energy, but you're producing very, very huge amounts of energy. And they still can't measure it because it's inside of an insulated tube. The tube that runs through the body is in 3 circles. And There's three different things, and the outer one is the positive electrical field moving either up or down. It can move both directions. And the inner field, in the core of the whole thing, is the negative field.
Yeah.
And it's the same way. It can move either direction, and both at the same time. But the energy, the space in the middle is chi or prana.
And it's going.
And it's just there.
Yeah.
And it's moving with it can go up and down also, but it keeps the negative and positive separate from each other. And so, for whatever the reason is, and I don't know why, science has never been able to measure this.
Mm.
They should be able to, but they haven't, that I know of, anywhere in the world. So, I know I'm not saying very much, but that's what this is all about.
I believe you said a lot.
Yeah.
A lot of new things.
Well, and so
good news.
I'm working as hard as I can to get this together, and we're very close at this point. One of the things is that Marco Rodin, the mathematics is something that no one's ever really known before.
Yeah.
They knew half of it. They knew Gurdjieff's work, the Russian Sufi,
Yeah.
and the Enneagram, but they didn't know that there were two Enneagrams.
Mm.
One is electrical energy, rather, and the other one is matter. E equals mc squared, opposite. And the matter one produces very huge amounts of energy, as you can see in the atomic bomb. But the matter energy flow was never really known until Marco Rodin came around. And there are people that are studying this and trying to understand. But what's for most of this audience that is hearing this, you have probably heard of the Fibonacci sequence, because that's what makes life.
Yeah.
And you probably believe that, and all mathematicians on earth almost believe, that there's only one Fibonacci sequence, 0, 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 21, 34, etc., 55, 89. And so it might be interesting for you to know that there are actually 6 more Fibonacci sequences not seen before, and 1 more that is not actually Fibonacci, but it controls the other 6.
So we have 7 more.
There's 7
Unknown.
that are never seen before. And what Marco showed me before he left was he did it by hiding it, because he was teaching it. Somebody else was in the room, and he showed me one of the Fibonacci sequences that made it look like it was a mistake. And then when he left, he looked at me, he says, "If you figure this out, you'll know everything I know."
Cool.
And I went to bed that night, and I had a dream, and I saw it all. And I jumped out of bed, and I went, and I just wrote it all down, and it was perfect. And I go, "Oh, I get it." And so now I know, I understand, and it's amazing. It really is amazing. Any mathematician that thinks he knows everything about math and saw this, he would feel like a child.
Yeah.
Because this is God mathematics, calculus and algebra and
Cos-
all this
cosmic
stuff.
mathematics.
This is man-made mathematics, and it's an approximation. It is not actual fact. And so when you see it, your heart and mind both instantly know it's true. You can't help it. You know it's true. And there was a movie that just came out called
Arrival.
The Arrival.
Yeah.
It's still out there right now. And it's very good at showing how the dimensions are separated by 90 degrees and all these kinds of things. But there was one thing that happened in that movie that I got just like, wow, they're talking about this? They're talking about the other Fibonacci sequences there. And so somebody knows something. And you're in that cave type thing, and there's a invisible film running across,
Membrane,
and these seven-legged octopus type things
Right.
come up, and at one point he's talking to a human on the other side, this woman,
Yeah.
and he puts his hand on the screen, which has 7 fingers. And she thought, well, okay, so she put both of her hands on him, And no. And she took him down and she put one hand
Just
on
one
it.
hand, right?
That was the proof that they knew what they were talking about. So whoever did this movie really does understand something that probably very few people understand. We can't ever have 7 fingers because 7 is not in our Fibonacci sequence. It goes, 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8. There's no 7 in there. But I can show you a Fibonacci sequence that does exactly the same thing as a Fibonacci sequence.
With 7.
And it has 7 in there. And so higher life forms are using that rather than what we're using.
Wow.
So ETs don't have the same kind of DNA and everything else that we have. We're really different. And I couldn't even sleep that night when I saw that because I realized that there are other people out there that are getting this at the same time. So that's really cool. It's the purpose, right? Everybody needs to know. So nobody has the copyrights on this kind of thing. You can't have it on geometry, and you can't have it on mathematical sequences either.
Right.
And so it belongs to the world, and once they see it,
The universe. Sure.
you're going to have a million movies coming on these other life forms of how they are based on whole different principles than what we are. So that's probably about it in this.
Thank you, Drumbalo, from all of the world that are watching us now, today, and I'm sure we are coming back soon.
I didn't realize until this moment, but right behind us, on there, is the mathematics of 7.
7, yeah.
That's exactly what we're talking about.
Thank you. We love you. Thank you for this
That was just
beautiful talk.
total coincidence.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. All right, bye-bye.